Let's go over everything you need to know about pipelines in Dynasty College Football 26. Pipelines play a pretty important role in your dynasty, man. Unfortunately, I feel like EA kind of dropped the ball with no dynamic pipelines. If y'all don't know, pipelines will never change outside of coach abilities. We'll cover that a little bit later. I feel as though if you're dominating an area, a state, you should develop a pipeline in that area, or that pipeline should increase. But that's another topic. If y'all do enjoy the content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, check out my Purdue series, and also go over to the live stream over on Twitch. We tapped in. Alright, so let's talk pipelines. So the way this works is, is 1 through 5 tier pipelines. And I'll be honest, they're pretty much the same as last year. As far as, obviously the 1 pipeline, the 0 pipeline is the worst. You'll have pipelines for no pipelines at all for some players like this guy right here. We don't have a pipeline for Utah. That's fine. We still could get this guy, especially when you look at the screen and, is not any other schools that's going to completely dominate this recruitment. Compared to one like this, you see nothing but, high tier pipelines. So it's 1 through 5 tier pipelines, and those could improve via the coach abilities, but that's it, man. Only the coach abilities could improve your pipelines. Unfortunately, very, annoying feature, but obviously a 1 tier pipeline going against a 5 tier pipeline, that 5 tier pipeline should dominate that recruitment, but it don't always go that way in game. I'm sure y'all had a situation where you might have been a 3 tier pipeline and another using a recruiting battle, or you was going up against another school that might only had a 1 tier pipeline, and somehow they just out recruit you tremendously. And it's other factors that go into it, man. For example, the hard sell. Once a school put that hard sell on, if they have way better grades, then that pipeline don't mean nothing. So pipeline plays a factor, but it's not the most important thing in the world. Having good grades and also just doing the proper recruiting methods, doing proper visits, all of that stuff matters more. So you could go after guys where you have no pipeline boost and still dominate and win that recruitment if you know what you're doing in this video game, especially if you have a coach build like this where you have elite recruiter and can put in 65 hours for quarterbacks or other positions. You could absolutely dominate without having ideal pipelines. So we'll also get into a website that show you every single school pipeline. That's another thing that probably should be in this game that we asked for last year, is just a way to see every single school pipeline. It's currently no way. If you want to see if you want to see all of LSU pipelines, you have to go to a website to see. There's no way for you to actually see all of the school pipelines in the game, and we'll get into that website in a little bit. First, I want to show you all the coach abilities where you could improve a pipeline. So let's go to Talent Developer, and what this does, this tier 4 version, for example, quarterbacks boost to pipeline bonus for quarterbacks. So what that means, you will not have a pipeline increase. So if you have a 4 tier pipeline for a quarterback, that won't increase to a 5 tier. And I'll show you, man. We'll go ahead and get this ability for running backs because we actually have a running back on the board who currently has a 4 tier pipeline. Let's go ahead and get this ability for running backs. Now, what that ability actually does, it don't move the pipeline up to a 5 tier. You just get an extra boost on top of your 4 tier pipeline or wherever pipeline you already have for that player. So let's look at running back. Like I said, he had the 4 tier pipeline. He still keeps that 4 tier pipeline. Now that 4 tier pipeline might just act like a 5 tier, if that makes sense. But the visual don't show it. So what does that talent developer boost really do? We have no idea. What percent it does, we really have no idea. We haven't done that much testing. Maybe we will one day. But that's how it kind of works. It should just boost the pipeline, but it's not clear how much. Now, when you're recruiting, it's probably good to actually go at the guys within your pipeline because you're kind of getting a double whammy when it comes to pipelines and then also visits that are usually closer to your school. Most programs are going to have pipelines surrounding their school. So the way EA tried to do it is make pipelines that are, that real life school, what areas they kind of dominate or really bring players in from. So EA tried to give LSU the pipelines that they thought LSU brings players in from. So like we got Louisiana here as a 5 tier pipeline, obviously. Texas is going to be broken down into, I believe, 2 different pipelines. Also, you got LA, or that's Louisiana once again. Then you got Texas. Then you got Cali. Cali is also broken down to, I believe, two pipelines. Same thing with Georgia. Some of the states where recruiting is a lot of recruits coming from. They broke it down to 2 different pipelines, so it's levels to it. So it's just not Georgia is the best pipeline in the game by far, or Kyle, whatever. So you could go through, and like I said, there's no great way to figure out your school pipelines on the game, but this website we'll show you in a second does have that. Now you have Alabama here as a 3-tier pipeline, Florida, and you could kind of go through and look at all your pipelines, and then you'll have some states with no pipeline at all. Now coming back over here to the coach abilities, Program Builder, the same exact ability from last year, is in this game as well. To unlock Program Builder, you have to win 5 playoff games. A big task, but it's doable. And you get this Relationships Builder, and each level is useful, man. First level upgrades your school's best 2 pipelines by 1 tier. And it's like, well, your best 2 pipelines is probably, like for LSU, it's going to be a 5 tier. Well, it goes down to whatever your next best 2 pipelines that's not already maxed out. So I upgrade those 2. Tier 3 upgrades your school's 5 best pipelines by 1 tier. And like I said, it goes down. And then last one is upgrades your school's 5 worst pipelines by 1 tier. So let's go ahead and get that ability as well. And then strong roots is another great ability for upgrading your pipelines. Boost to your primary pipelines. Boost starting interest from recruits within your primary pipelines. Recruits from your primary pipeline gain extra influence. Boost. So all of this stuff is very good. All of this stuff is going to help you dominate recruiting. So we can't get the last version of it, but we bought what we could. And now we come back over here to our recruiting class, and the pipelines is going to be a little bit of a better spot. That Relationship Builder really upgrades some of your pipelines. So, for example, if we look at our running back, he still has the 4 tier, but some of these pipelines did get upgraded. So let's come over here to this website, College Football GG, and I'll make sure I put the link down in the description. And it's a good website for just seeing what pipelines a school has. So let's come over here to LSU, and we can see LSU pipelines kind of on a map. And it actually does a very good job. And like some version of this actually should be in college football, where you just see all the pipelines all in one space. So looking at LSU, we have a Central Florida pipeline, and then also we have, a California pipeline. California is blue, which is tier 4, and you also have Central Florida, which is a tier 2. But you come over here to the game, and you see Florida is up to a 4-tier pipeline, so it's boosted by 2. That's the coach ability doing that. And then also your California pipeline is also boosted by 1. So the ability actually works and does what it's supposed to. And you could look at every single school. One of my issues, like really not being able to upgrade pipelines, like for example, if I come to my Temple Owls, a rebuild I did last year. And for me, this is annoying. We're in Philadelphia. We're in PA. And, we have a Big Apple pipeline, which is going to be your New York and also your Jersey area. We literally are better recruiting guys from out of state than a guy that's 10 minutes down the road, and that can never change. So that's kind of my issue with pipelines. And every school have different pipelines. You just come down here and see like the full list. And if you click one of the pipelines, you can see what school has that pipeline and what tier they have it on. So, and it's pretty cool. Like, it's a pretty cool system. Then you could click on this Tulane, and you can see what pipelines Tulane have. They actually have a PA pipeline, and you can kind of see everything you need to see. And like I said, it should just be some version of this in the game where you don't have to just go, oh, who has a Big Apple pipeline, and you could just see it easily in the game. But here, and let's look at Delaware, a new team, and they have very bad pipelines. And I mean, you're talking about some really bad pipelines, man. Like they only consider it two pipelines here, and it's all these, upper states up in this corner. But it's like, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle to recruit, man. And that's realistic, though. So the sad part is those pipelines can never improve, even if you have a phenomenal year. And Missouri State, same thing. They have 2 pipelines. Not ideal. You do get to Texas, which could be useful, but, just not ideal. And you go school by school. You even got Navy here with some solid pipelines. And then, obviously, you look at, like, maybe a Notre Dame, and then you get, a lot more top-level pipelines. And so it's a pretty cool website, and I'm not sponsored by them at all. I just found it, and I want to share it for you guys because it could be helpful. There's also levels to each pipeline. So like every team last year on Reddit, it hasn't dropped yet. When it do drop, I'll probably link it down in the description for you guys if y'all watching the video later on. But last year they had a ranking for every single school pipelines, and it's honestly probably exactly the same. I'm gonna show y'all here. Let me just show y'all because it's exactly the same. Pipelines, to my knowledge, has not changed from last year to this year. So you're only missing Delaware and Missouri State as they wasn't on the last year list. So here's last year Reddit post by them boys. Always be cruising them boys that be going crazy on Reddit. And it pretty much ranks all of the pipelines. And like I said, I think this is going to be the exact same from last year. I don't think it's no difference. Let me know down below if it is, but to my knowledge, it's no difference, man. I did some research trying to find it out. Looks exactly the same. So East Texas is pretty much like your strongest pipeline. So the 2 Texas pipelines are the best. And then you get, Central Florida, California, Metro Atlantic, and it pretty much like ranks with pipelines because like an Arizona pipeline is just not going to be as valuable as, a Georgia pipeline, an Atlanta pipeline. So it's all ranking these, and your worst pipeline in the game is going to be a New Mexico. And then we get the actual ranking of like every single school and where they rank when it comes to pipelines. And I always thought the most interesting one was Stanford here with ranked number 14 but you wouldn't probably think about Stanford as like a super recruiting powerhouse, but because they have this South California combo with the North Texas and then North California also with the East Texas, it leads to just a super powerful pipeline. So if you went with a Stanford rebuild, they could actually be a recruiting powerhouse. Same thing with like South Carolina. They could also be an absolutely recruiting powerhouse. And even the school down here at Army, ranked number 34, could be a very good recruiting powerhouse here, man. So this is something to pay attention to, man. Like I said, I'll drop the links to both of these down below, and every single team is ranked. You won't have the 2 new teams because they wasn't on last year's roster, obviously. So all of this stuff is just useful information to have, man, when it comes to, pipelines, recruiting, and you kind of just have an idea before you hop into your dynasty or pick your next team. Just look at the pipelines, you get an idea what you're getting yourself into. And it's super unfortunate that they'll never change unless you get that coach ability, which, 9 times out of 10, you won't get that ability because it's difficult. It's tough. Win 5 playoff games. And at that point, you got to also save the hours or save the coins because it's 16 a pop to just get it once. And then you got to unlock it. So it's a lot. It's expensive. But that's all I got for y'all boys today, man. Make sure I like, comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate y'all boys. And we on to the next one.